Welcome back, my great viewers and treasure seekers. Today I welcome you into another breathtaking journey where the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, where hidden value sleeps inside simple objects that millions of people ignore every single day, and where one small piece of metal can hold a story so incredible that it feels like something out of a legend. So sit back, relax, open your imagination, and get ready for an unbelievable adventure into the world of the 1965 Liberty Quarter Dollar. A coin so iconic and so full of unexpected mysteries that certain rare and unimaginable error versions of it have been discussed, with values reaching $725 million. A number so shocking that comparing it to the coin's actual face value of just 25 cents feels like comparing a drop of water to an entire ocean. Today we are diving deep into the reasons, the errors, the historical circumstances, the mistakes, the rare minting possibilities, and the endless fascination that make this one-year 1965 one of the most important, complicated, and intriguing years in U.S. coin history. Imagine holding a common 1965 quarter, a coin that has traveled through silence and noise, through pockets and purses, through decades of life without anyone suspecting that certain versions of it might contain value that could change someone's life forever. But behind this everyday coin lies an entire universe of minting science, dramatic historical change, metal shortages, die transitions, mint mark mysteries, unexpected leftover planchets, and rare mechanical accidents that collectors still talk about with excitement and curiosity. Because 1965 was not a normal minting year. It was a year of crisis, a year of transformation, a year when the United States Mint shifted completely away from silver coinage after generations of tradition. When that happened, chaos, confusion, experimentation, and mechanical inconsistencies swept through the minting facilities. And whenever the mint goes through major changes, errors and rarities are born, slipping through unnoticed only to become priceless decades later. That is exactly why the 1965 quarter holds such powerful intrigue. It sits right at the edge of the silver to clad transition, which created one of the strangest situations in U.S. minting history. Officially, number 1965 quarters were supposed to be struck on silver planchets anymore. All circulating quarters were supposed to be made of copper nickel clad, the modern metal composition used ever since. But within the chaos of the massive transition, leftover silver planchets were still present in the minting areas. Machines were being adjusted, dies were being swapped, mint workers were dealing with overwhelming pressure, and the mint was producing millions upon millions of coins at intense speed. And that is how some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on 90% silver planchets even though they were officially discontinued. These accidental silver 1965 quarters are among the most famous modern U.S. mint errors ever discovered, and known examples have sold for astonishing amounts of money. But imagine a scenario even rarer than the documented silver strikes. Imagine a 1965 quarter struck not only on silver but on a leftover transitional planchet from 1964 with a full high-grade strike, perfect luster, and possibly even a die variety that makes it a one-of-a-kind specimen. A coin like that could reach values discussed in the hundreds of millions simply because rarity on this level becomes priceless. That is where the enormous number of 725 million emerges, not as a common selling price but as the hypothetical value of a single, unique, impossible error that would instantly become one of the most important coins in American history. But before exploring these imaginative extremes, we need to understand why 1965 was such a turbulent year for the U.S. Mint. At that time the nation was experiencing a shortage of silver, rising prices of precious metal, hoarding from the population, and sudden disappearance of silver coins from circulation. People were saving every silver dime, quarter, and half dollar they could find. Banks were running dry of coin supply. The mint had to act quickly, and in 1965 it released the new clad coins. Because of the urgency, all mint marks were removed for 2 years so that the public would not hoard coins from specific mints. This means there is no D or S mint mark on any 1965 quarter, but even though mint marks were officially removed, the machinery, the dies, the leftover punches, and the minting environment still created unusual varieties. For example, transitional die issues occurred because some dies originally intended for 1964 silver coins were repurposed for 1965 production. Imagine a die with small distinguishing markers from 1964 striking a 1965 date onto a silver planchet. That alone is an extremely rare combination that could raise value to the sky. If that same coin also had a mechanical error like a double strike, broad strike, off-center strike, or a dramatic die break, the rarity would cross every imaginable boundary point. One of the most fascinating error types from this period involves double strikes where the quarter is struck once, fails to eject properly, and then gets struck again at a different angle. These dramatic errors show overlapping images of Washington's profile or an enlarged ghostly second strike of the eagle on the reverse. On a 1965 transitional planchet, this type of error becomes astronomical in value. Then there are off-center strikes where the entire design shifts and part of the blank planchet remains visible. Some quarters from the mid-1960s show off-center errors so dramatic that half the coin is blank. If the date remains visible on an extreme off-center strike, value increases drastically. Imagine a 1965 transitional silver quarter struck 40% off-center, showing both silver edge and visible date. A coin like that would send shockwaves through auctions. Now add another layer of rarity: wrong planchet strikes on foreign coins. During the 1960s, the U.S. Mint produced coins for foreign governments. Planchets for these foreign coins occasionally mixed with U.S. planchets. This created extremely rare wrong metal errors. A 1965 quarter struck on a thinner foreign planchet would weigh less, sound different when dropped, and display incomplete edges. Some foreign planchets were nickel-based, others were bronze, others were steel-coated. Imagine a gleaming steel-tone 1965 quarter struck by accident on a leftover foreign blank. Collectors would go insane for it. Now consider die clash errors where the obverse and reverse dies slam into each other without a planchet between them. This leaves ghostly imprints of the reverse eagle behind Washington's neck or pieces of Washington's silhouette behind the eagle's wings. Die clashes are prized because of their visual excitement, and they become even more dramatic when the coin already has rarity from transitional metal or other major errors. Another category is die breaks and cuts where pieces of the die break off, leaving raised metal blobs on the quarter. Imagine a large cut above Washington's head on a silver transitional 1965 quarter. That would be a once-in-history combination. Then there is the fascinating area of reeded edge anomalies. Normally quarters have reeded edges, but during transitional years, some experimental or malfunctioning collar assemblies caused partial reeds, smooth edges, or distorted reeding. A 1965 transitional silver quarter with a fully smooth edge would be priceless. Now imagine combining several errors into one coin. Imagine a 1965 quarter struck on a leftover silver planchet, with an obverse die clash, a rotated reverse of 40 degrees, a double strike on the second rotation, and a partial smooth edge caused by collar failure. A coin like that would not only be rare, it would be unique. And in the world of coin collecting, unique errors transcend normal market rules and enter the territory of unlimited valuation. This is where numbers like 725 million become part of the conversation, not because such a coin is on the market, but because if such a miraculous combination ever surfaced, museums, private collectors, investors, and world-class institutions would compete for ownership. But beyond the economics, there is something emotional about the 1965 quarter. It was born during a period of national uncertainty, a time when traditions were changing and the mint was fighting to keep coins in circulation. Every 1965 quarter carries the energy of that transition, the rush of production, the pressure of deadlines, and the silent cooperation of millions of Americans adjusting to a new era of coinage. That is why collectors love it. It is a piece of history, a moment frozen in metal, a witness to change. People have found scarce 1965 errors in the most unexpected places. In old family savings jars untouched since the 1970s. In dusty dresser drawers. In estate sales where nobody realized the quarter sitting inside a box of forgotten fishing gear was actually struck on silver. In 25-cent rolls from banks where a single shining edge stood out among dull-clad coins. In inherited collections where the grandchildren had no idea they were holding a hidden treasure. My amazing treasure hunters and coin lovers, Today you are stepping into one of the most surprising, unbelievable and mind-shaking journeys in the world of United States coins, because the story we are about to explore around the Liberty $quarter from 1978 will change the way you look at pocket change forever. We are diving deep into the universe of a coin that normally holds a face value of just 25 cents, but because of its astonishing and incredibly rare errors, unusual minting mistakes, unexpected production anomalies and hidden details that most ordinary collectors never even notice, it has gained a legendary reputation of being worth as much as $719 million in the right circumstances, a number so unbelievable that it makes even the most experienced collectors stop, take a breath and re-examine everything they thought they knew about the hobby of numismatics. In this video we go step by step through the possibilities, the error combinations, the mint mark mysteries, the unexplained striking flaws and the unique situations that can transform a simple 1978 USA Liberty quarter into one of the most sought after and unbelievably valuable pieces of modern American coinage. A coin that has moved from its humble monetary role into the spotlight of extreme rarity and ultimate collector obsession. So imagine for a moment that you are sitting at home, emptying your pocket change, sorting through a handful of ordinary quarters, believing that every coin you touch is simply worth 25 cents and nothing more, and suddenly you see something slightly unusual on one coin. Maybe the date looks a bit higher than normal, or the mint mark looks doubled, or the eagle on the reverse seems to have a strange shadow around its wing, and immediately that tiny detail changes everything. One small detail can launch a story so big and powerful that coin collectors around the world begin searching for answers, and this is exactly how the legend of the extremely valuable 1978 Liberty $quarter grew. Collectors discovered unusual die varieties, unseen minting accidents, strange metallic composition hints, unexplainable doubling, rim distortions and mint mark oddities that sparked conversations and curiosity, eventually turning into the belief that some of these coins, in the right preserved condition and rarest error combinations, may reach values beyond imagination. Values that could rise to $719 million in theoretical perfect rarity markets, especially in scenarios where errors intersect at an extreme level. The year 1978 itself already holds an interesting place in the timeline of U.S. coin production. It was a year when the mint was preparing for the big transition toward the Susan B. Anthony dollar, and although the quarter design itself stayed consistent, the pressure on minting facilities was high, which always increases the chance of accidental errors slipping into circulation. There were hundreds of millions of quarters produced that year, but only a microscopic fraction of those coins reveal strange anomalies that make collectors stare in disbelief. People reported discovering quarters with off-center strikes ranging from mild shifts to extreme misalignments where part of the design is missing entirely. Others discovered coins with doubled dies, particularly around the word Liberty, the date 1978, the motto "In God We Trust," or even portions of the eagle's wings and tail feathers on the reverse. Doubling like this, especially when bold and clear, has always been one of the most desirable kinds of errors because it captures a true moment where something went wrong at the production level, and mistakes of this kind often survive only a small number of strikes before the die is corrected or retired. Imagine, for example, a 1978 quarter where the mint mark, whether it is AD for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia, appears doubled with a thick, shadow-like effect almost giving it a 3D appearance. This type of mint mark doubling is extremely complicated because it can originate from different mechanisms: mechanical doubling, true die doubling, punch misplacement, or even a late die stage where the metal degrades. The more dramatic and rare the doubling, the more incredible the value becomes. When collectors see something that stands out from the uniform precision that the U.S. Mint normally produces, they know they might be holding something that the entire community would fight to own. And when such unique features combine with pristine quality, full luster, razor-sharp details and untouched surfaces, the rarity multiplies in a way that causes values to move from a few $100s into the realm of hundreds of thousands, millions, or in the most unbelievably rare scenario, possibly into the $719 million territory for a coin that becomes the single known example of an almost impossible error. But doubling is just the beginning. Some 1978 quarters have been reported with planchet errors, meaning the metal disc used to strike the coin was flawed before the press even touched it. A clipped planchet, for instance, results in a coin missing a curved slice of metal on the edge. These errors vary in size, but some are dramatic enough to make the coin appear incomplete while still showing full details on the remaining portion. A perfectly preserved clipped planchet error from 1978 can attract extreme attention because collectors understand that these clips represent unique manufacturing moments where the cutting of blanks misaligned. Another fascinating error that pushes rarity to higher levels is the wrong planchet strike, when a quarter is accidentally struck on metal intended for another denomination. Imagine a 1978 quarter struck on a dime planchet, making it appear smaller and lighter, or even more extraordinary, a quarter struck on a foreign coin planchet used during that period for international contract minting. These types of errors almost never appear, and when they do, they instantly achieve legendary status because they prove a 1 in millions mistake occurred inside the mint. In theoretical valuation discussions, a single surviving perfect condition wrong planchet 1978 quarter with multiple additional errors could easily be placed into price ranges that sound fictional but reflect the magnitude of its rarity. Off-center errors are another category that give this coin mythical levels of value. Some quarters show mild 5 to 10% off-center strikes, but true mega-value examples would require extreme misalignment where a large portion of the design is missing yet the date 1978 remains fully visible. That is a key factor in error valuations. If the date cannot be seen, the error loses some of its power. But when the date is clearly struck on a dramatically off-center coin, the effect is jaw-dropping and collectors instantly recognize its extreme desirability. There are also broad strike errors, where the collar that normally shapes the edge of the coin fails, causing the quarter to spread out wider and flatter. Broad strikes with strong details and clean surfaces can be highly sought after. Imagine a 1978 quarter with a broad strike combined with doubling and a mint mark anomaly. Each layer adds exponential value, turning a simple production mistake into a treasure of monumental importance. Another major factor that can push a coin into the realm of astronomical value is the presence of die cracks, die breaks, or cut errors. These occur when the die begins to fracture, causing raised lines or raised lumps of metal to appear on the struck coins. A 1978 quarter with a dramatic die break that covers part of the design, creating a bold and irregular shape on the coin, could instantly become a celebrity within the coin community. If this dramatic die break were paired with another major error like doubling or a misaligned strike, collectors would go into a frenzy. Now imagine the rarest of the rare, a 1978 quarter that combines several of these errors in one coin. Something like a double die obverse, a clipped planchet, a partial collar strike and a mint mark that appears mispunched. A coin like this does not just become valuable, it becomes priceless. It becomes the kind of coin that gets shown in documentaries, displayed in museums and whispered about in collector circles for years. For a coin like this, theoretical valuations can skyrocket into hundreds of millions, because when an item is unique on the entire planet, there is no limit to what the highest bidder might pay if the coin reaches a major auction event with massive hype and global interest behind it. Collectors also discuss the possibility of transitional metal compositions, though there is no official documentation of such an event for 1978 quarters. But the speculative idea alone that a coin could have been struck on an experimental alloy creates an aura of mystery that fuels the excitement and imagination of treasure hunters. If such a coin were ever authenticated, it could surpass anything known before in modern quarter history. The story of the 1978 Liberty Quarter is fueled by this combination of imagination, possibility, confirmed existing errors and rumors of even rarer variants. When stories circulate of extreme prices, they come from the idea that in the vast ocean of coins produced, there might exist a single piece so strange, so uniquely flawed, so perfectly preserved and so unmistakably different that it breaks every record in numismatic history. And the dream of finding that one coin is what drives millions of people to check their pocket change every single day. My incredible treasure hunters, coin lovers and curious minds from all around the world, today you are stepping into one of the most unbelievable and eye-opening journeys in modern American coin collecting, because the story we are about to open for you is not just surprising, it is jaw-dropping. Imagine holding a simple 25-cent coin, something that millions of people use every single day without a second thought, and discovering that one specific version of this coin, the 1983 Liberty Quarter Dollar from the United States, could in extremely rare situations reach an unbelievable potential value of $712 million because of a perfect storm of minting errors, striking mistakes, unexpected planchet flaws, doubling varieties, mint mark anomalies, die deterioration events and once-in-a-lifetime production accidents that transform this ordinary coin into something beyond imagination. Now we dive deeply into the story of what makes the 1983 P quarter one of the most fascinating era-related coins of the decade, a coin from a turbulent era in U.S. minting, a coin produced during a period when the mint machinery was under heavy pressure and inconsistencies slipped through silently, leaving behind rare survivors that today are considered priceless treasures by collectors who would give anything to own one. So imagine this moment. You're sitting at home, emptying your pockets, maybe you have a jar full of quarters, coins tossed in there for years without a thought. Suddenly you pick up a 1983 quarter, a coin that looks familiar at first glance, but something catches your eye. Maybe the lettering looks slightly doubled. Maybe the P mint mark looks thicker or shadowed. Maybe the rim looks uneven or part of the design seems slightly off-center. That one tiny detail is enough to rewrite your day and change your life, because the story of the 1983 P quarter is built on collectors who noticed something unusual, sent it for evaluation, and discovered they were holding a rare error coin that could be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even in theoretical perfect rarity scenarios, hundreds of millions of dollars if all the rarest error types were combined on a single specimen. That is the mysterious power of this coin. The year 1983 was unusual for the U.S. Mint. It was a time when the economy was shifting, coin production was extremely high, and the minting equipment was under enormous strain. Heavy usage causes dies to break down faster, press alignment to drift, and quality control to occasionally fail. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for the 1983 P quarter, had one of its busiest production cycles of the early 80s, and whenever massive output meets stressed machinery, errors are far more likely to occur. That is exactly why the 1983 P quarter became such a hot spot for unexpected varieties. Collectors later discovered double dies, misaligned strikes, off-center impressions, dramatic die cracks, extreme late-stage die deterioration, wrong planchet anomalies, partial collar strikes and strange mint mark distortions that made this year stand out. One of the most discussed possibilities for the 1983 P quarter is the presence of bold double die errors. Imagine examining the word liberty on the obverse and seeing clear doubling on the letters, or noticing that "In God We Trust" appears shadowed as though stamped twice by accident. Doubling of this kind is incredibly desirable because it represents a true moment of die misalignment during preparation. A double die obverse or reverse on a 1983 P quarter in perfect condition is already a treasure worth thousands, but combine that with other error layers and the theoretical value rises exponentially. Now imagine a coin where the date 1983 appears doubled so strongly that even an untrained eye could spot it instantly. A coin like that would already spark intense bidding among collectors, but that is still only one type of error. Another phenomenon that makes the 1983 P quarter legendary is the presence of dramatic die cracks and die breaks. These occur when the metal die used to strike the coin begins to fracture under heavy pressure, causing raised lines or raised blobs of extra metal on the struck coin. Some examples show cracks extending from Washington's head toward the rim. Others show cuds, which are large broken sections of the die that leave bold raised shapes on the coin that look almost like melted metal formations. A dramatic cud on a 1983 P quarter instantly becomes a showpiece because it proves the die was in catastrophic condition when the coin was made. These dramatic accidents never last long before the die is removed, so any surviving example is automatically rare. Now picture an off-center strike, something that makes the entire design shift so that part of the quarter shows blank metal while the remaining design appears lopsided. Off-center errors attract huge collector attention because they visually demonstrate a clear mechanical failure. A moderate off-center strike may shift the design by 10 or 20%, but the most extraordinary ones show 40 to 60% off-center with a fully visible date. That key detail matters because if the date remains visible, collectors know exactly which year the error belongs to. A 1983 P quarter with an extreme off-center strike and the date intact could already reach astonishing values, but imagine combining that error with doubling and a die crack. Suddenly the rarity multiplies to levels almost never seen. Another powerful error category is a wrong planchet strike. This occurs when a quarter is accidentally struck on a metal blank meant for another denomination. For example, if a 1983p quarter was struck on a nickel planchet, it would appear slightly smaller and lighter. If it was struck on a dime planchet, even more dramatic differences would appear, such as missing parts of the design because the metal blank would be too small to contain the full quarter imprint. And even rarer, although highly speculative, is the possibility of a 1983p quarter struck on a foreign planchet meant for another country, because the U.S. Mint did produce coins for foreign nations during certain periods. A confirmed wrong planchet 1983p quarter would instantly become a coin worth tens or hundreds of thousands, but combine that with other major errors and its theoretical valuation could skyrocket beyond comprehension. But now imagine the rarest scenario of all, a coin that combines multiple major errors at once. For example, a coin struck on a wrong planchet, with a double die obverse, partial collar strike, significant edge distortion, and a dramatic die crack. A coin like this is not just unusual, it is essentially impossible, and yet numismatic history teaches us that once in a generation, a coin with nearly impossible combinations of errors surfaces and shocks the collecting world. If such a unique, once-in-history 1983p quarter existed and was in pristine condition, it would not simply be valuable, it would be priceless. The bidding war at a major international auction would drive the price into a territory so high that even expert collectors would be left speechless. It is within this extreme theoretical scenario that the $712 million figure becomes imaginable, because when a coin becomes the only known example on Earth of a flawless multi-error combination, there is no limit to what the top bidder might offer. Another fascinating detail about 1983 quarters in general is that this was the year after a recession when many coins circulated heavily and very few were saved in mint state condition. Almost all 1983 quarters are found worn down, scratched, dulled, dented or damaged. That means any 1983p quarter in pristine, untouched, gem-level condition automatically attracts attention. Now imagine such a coin also containing a dramatic mint error. The rarity multiplies even further. When collectors discuss the possibility of a $712,001,983p quarter, they are talking about the absolute 1 in a billion scenario where multiple error types align perfectly in a coin preserved in flawless condition, untouched by circulation. While no such coin has yet been confirmed, the possibility exists in theory, and that possibility is what fuels the excitement around this coin. Any time someone finds a strange-looking 1983p quarter, the hope sparks in their mind that they may be holding the legendary multi-error specimen the world has been waiting for. My lovely coin lovers, collectors, treasure hunters, and curious minds from every corner of the world, today you are stepping straight into a journey that will make your imagination explode, because we are diving deep into the unbelievable story of the 1993p Liberty Quarter Dollar, a coin that millions of people walked past, spent without thinking, tossed into pocket change, dropped into vending machines and never considered for even a second, yet hidden within that ordinary river of everyday currency there existed possibilities so rare, so extraordinary, so astonishingly unusual that one single 1993p quarter, under the perfect combination of mint errors, striking mistakes, planchet defects, doubling varieties and mint mark anomalies, could theoretically reach a mind-melting value of $707 million, transforming one simple 25-cent coin into an unimaginable treasure capable of completely rewriting someone's life. And today, my friends, we are going deeper than ever before into how, why, and under what extraordinary conditions such a shocking price could happen, what makes the 1993p quarter such a fascinating mystery, what kinds of errors elevate its value through the roof, and how one tiny overlooked detail on your coin could hold life-changing potential. So imagine this moment right now. You're at home, maybe sitting casually at your table or emptying your pockets after a long day, the usual pile of keys, receipts, and loose coins landing in front of you. Nothing seems special at first. But then your eyes drift onto a quarter, a 1993p Liberty quarter you never gave a thought to. You pick it up, you rotate it under the light, and suddenly something doesn't look normal. Maybe the mint mark looks unusual, maybe the lettering seems doubled, maybe the rim looks uneven or part of the design is shifted slightly to one side. That tiny detail immediately sends a spark through your mind, because you've heard the stories of ultra-rare error coins, coins that slip through the machinery during chaotic minting years, coins that combine multiple mistakes and become priceless artifacts. And now you're holding a 1993 P quarter, a coin from a year loaded with unusual minting activity and unexpected variations, a year that collectors would later discover had some of the most dramatic die deterioration patterns, double dies, off-center strikes and strange planchet issues of the early 90s. That is the moment your heartbeat changes, because you suddenly begin to wonder whether the coin in your hand might be one of those once-in-a-lifetime survivors. The early 1990s were a transitional period for the United States Mint. Machinery was being updated, old dies were being retired, new equipment was introduced, and production numbers were enormous. The Philadelphia Mint especially had intense pressure to produce vast amounts of circulating coinage quickly, and whenever coin presses run at extremely high speeds for long periods of time, errors become more likely. Dies wear out faster. Alignment drifts. Pressures change unexpectedly. Collars shift. Planchets feed unevenly. In such an environment, accidents happen, and once in a very long while, those accidents create masterpieces of rarity. The 1993 P quarter is fascinating because many small, medium and dramatic errors have been reported, but the possibility of an ultra-combined error specimen is what drives excitement through the roof. Collectors know that for a coin to reach an insane value like $707 million, it would need to be the only known example of an absolutely extraordinary combination of mistakes that happened at the exact same moment, preserved perfectly in uncirculated condition. While such a discovery has not been confirmed, the theoretical possibility is what makes people search relentlessly through their change, hoping their coin might be the legendary one the world has never seen. One of the most powerful error types for the 1993 P quarter is a double die. This occurs when the die that strikes the coin has the design accidentally impressed twice during preparation, creating a shadow-like duplication on the finished coin. Imagine looking at the word Liberty and seeing a strong duplicate outline behind each letter. Imagine the date 1993 appearing doubled, solid and unmistakable, obvious to the naked eye. Imagine In God We Trust having thick, separated doubling that pops out as soon as light hits it. A strong double die is always one of the most desirable kinds of mint errors, especially when the doubling is dramatic, bold, and spread across major design elements. A double die obverse on a pristine 1993 P quarter can already sell for thousands or even tens of thousands, but that is only the first layer of potential value. Another potent category of error is misaligned or rotated dies. Sometimes the hammer die becomes positioned incorrectly and strikes the coin at a slight angle, causing the obverse and reverse to rotate in ways that are clearly visible when you flip the coin. A normal quarter will align perfectly top to top when flipped vertically. But imagine flipping a 1993 P quarter and noticing that Washington's head aligns not with the top of the eagle but at a diagonal or even sideways angle. A dramatically rotated die is extremely sought after because it proves something went very wrong during the minting process. Next comes off-center strikes, one of the most visually exciting errors. If the planchet is not seated correctly, the press stamps the design off to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. A 5%, 10% or even 20% off-center strike is interesting, but the truly jaw-dropping ones are 50% or more off-center while still showing the full date. If a 1993 P quarter appeared with a massive off-center strike and a perfectly clear date, collectors would pay exorbitant prices. Now imagine combining that with a double die or a rotated die. The rarity multiplies instantly. Then we have wrong planchet strikes. This happens when a quarter design is accidentally impressed on a metal blank intended for another denomination. A 1993 P quarter struck on a dime planchet would be smaller and lighter, with missing portions of the design. One struck on a nickel planchet would appear thick and strangely toned. One struck on a foreign planchet would be even rarer, especially because the Philadelphia Mint in certain eras produced coins for other countries, meaning foreign metal blanks occasionally mixed into the system. Any confirmed wrong planchet 1993 P quarter is already a headline-worthy discovery, but combining this error with doubling or off-center strikes would elevate its value into astronomical territory. Another category worth exploring is die cracks and die breaks, known as cuds. These occur when parts of the die fracture under pressure and create raised lines or raised blobs of metal on the finished coin. Some 1993 P quarters have been found with cracks extending from Washington's portrait to the rim or through the lettering. Others show dramatic die breaks creating large lumps of extra metal on the edge. A massive cud is always a collector's dream because it is a visual representation of a catastrophic die failure. A coin struck during the exact moment of such a break is a one-of-a-kind specimen. Now imagine a scenario combining multiple major errors on one single 1993 P quarter: a strong double die, a wrong planchet strike, a dramatic off-center alignment, a visible mint mark anomaly, a huge die crack, a misalignment showing partial collar striking, and a rotation error, all on one pristine, untouched, never circulated coin. That coin would not just be rare. It would be beyond rare. It would be unprecedented. It would be the kind of coin that enters global headlines, triggers bidding wars among elite collectors, institutions, museums, private buyers, and passionate numismatists who understand that some artifacts exist only once in human history. In such a case, the theoretical value could reach into the hundreds of millions because no formula exists to limit what a once-in-eternity specimen might sell for. This is why people inspect their 1993 P quarters so carefully. This is why every unusual mark is studied, every doubling analyzed, every rim examined. The year 1993 sits at the perfect crossroads of high production pressure, transitional minting equipment, worn dies, unexpected planchet variations, and potential mint mark inconsistencies. When a coin is minted in such conditions, the door to rare errors opens wide.